What's going on, everybody? This is Raw Dawg Sports. I'm Mike. That is Evo. We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Tomorrow, we celebrate our Independence Day. Let's fucking go, boys. Let's have a night. Evo, my man, how you doing? Welcome in. I'm obviously in the holiday spirit because regardless of the dumb shit I have to see on the news every day, I still love this country. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm tired. I'm less festive right now, but that's because I just kind of raced back here from work. Long day at work and everything. Tomorrow was when I'll break out the overalls, the American overalls or something like that, and kind of get into the festivities of the 4th of July. A holiday that I love because I love this country. And I'm very happy to be here. And I'm happy to be on the show with you today. Happy to be here doing Raw Dawg Sports.
Hell yeah. And we got some fun things to talk about, man, because we're going to break down the AFC and NFC West. We're going to talk about the massive trade that took place. Jalen Ramsey for Minkah Fitzpatrick. TJ Watt has all sorts of trade rumors around him, and apparently the Steelers are open for business right now. The Browns are getting a new stadium. That's for sure happening, and the state is funding it. Thank you, taxpayers. The WNBA is expanding. One of those teams is coming to Cleveland. Sophie Cunningham isn't necessarily in love with that idea. And the greatest American champion in history makes his return to the stage in Coney Island when he goes out there, and I guarantee, putting it on there right now, Joey Chestnut goes and gets his title back and defends. That's what 4th of July is all about. Joey Chestnut eating a fuckload of dogs. Oh, man, I can't wait for it, brother. I cannot wait. We got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, a lot of fun stuff happening right now. One of the things that we haven't even said, and I'm stoked for, we have football this month. It is July. Training camp start, but more importantly, an actual football game will be played this month, and we don't have to go without football until the next Super Bowl is over. Like, that's fucking awesome. Stoked.
My man, you have me so excited. Actually, you know what? I wasn't sure if I was gonna. Yes, let's go, Chestnut. Let's get that title back, baby. I'm gonna crack my beer because I wasn't sure if I was gonna have any more. Had a couple while I was cooking dinner, but I'm ready to crack a beer because
awesome.
I'm in the 4th of July spirit. Let's start talking some sports though, because there's a lot to get into. Let's start with the WNBA, and let's be honest. Let's be completely transparent. It is not a league that we necessarily pay a lot of attention to, but they're in the news more than they have been in the past. A lot of that has to deal with Caitlin Clark and
the ninth best guard in the league.
Team. Not the best guard in the league.
Ninth best, apparently.
Ninth best guard in the league. Yeah. So let's talk about that. We'll slow down the expansion because the expansion is a great thing for the W, in my opinion. But what do you make of Caitlin being the 9th best guard ranked by the players, fan vote being number 1, and the media has her, I believe it was 3rd. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's wonky. I think the eye test, she's one of the best players in the league, let alone her position. She has done so much for propelling the sport into more of a media spotlight for whatever reason. Not just her play, but who who she is and everything. And I think that the player rating obviously shows that they dislike her coming in and taking the thunder that was there, which wasn't as much as it is now with her being there. And look, haters are gonna hate. I guess that's how it is. Like, it's interesting because you would think that ball knows ball, and they call it what it is. Like, you don't see this sort of stuff in the NBA. Obviously, a lot of the guys at the top are like, "No, I'm the best. I'm the best." But for the past 2 decades, I think it's been relatively unanimous. Everyone is like, LeBron James is the best in the league. And he's fading now and everything, but still, you have legitimate people who are in that conversation being talked about as the best in the entire sport. I think it goes without question. Caitlin Clark is one of the best, if not the best, player in the WNBA right now.
She's by far the most revolutionary player that the WNBA has ever seen,
for sure. And so for the players to not to vote her 9th best guard, I think that's just a lot of hate. A lot of people who are playing in the league that don't want to be dethroned, and so that's going to knock her down a lot.
Yeah, well, I think that anytime that there is a huge presence around somebody new, anybody with a little bit of seniority is going to feel a certain way. I remember being a young athlete, and kids come in and they were fucking good, but you're like, I gotta do a little bit better, right? I think that the hate for Caitlin is more about the money that is involved. It's not necessarily about the play or anything like that at this point. There's real dollars being discussed when you're talking about Caitlin Clark. And while it is a slap in the face to a lot of hardworking Americans to say what the WNBA makes is not good money, but people are not throwing real money at these women like they are throwing real money at Caitlin Clark. There is a difference in celebrity. And with that, you're going to have people that hate on that. That's always going to be the case, regardless of color, skill level, any of that. When you have somebody who is getting so much more than somebody else, there are going to be people that cannot stand that and will vote in these kinds of situations with their heart rather than their head.
Yeah. And look, like you said, she's been revolutionary to this sport. And the reason is not just because of who she is, what she symbolizes, that sort of thing for young women and everything.
The play style.
But the way that she plays and the skill that she has, that coupled together is what is making her so revolutionary. And so to overlook that, it's not like this isn't a Damar Hamlin situation where it's, there's this kind of incredible story that captures the limelight behind the player, but he is an average player to maybe below average in some aspects. She is elite on the court, and she is elite as a figurehead for this sport. And it's because of that dichotomy that's allowing her to be so revolutionary for the sport. And it's why she's such a special player. And it feels very petty, like you said, to be voting with the heart and not the brain.
I feel like media had a shot to be harsher than players. But the fact that they weren't is a little surprising, because we have seen a lot of hate in the media towards Caitlin Clark as well. I thought Ball would recognize Ball a little bit more. It wouldn't matter all the shit going on around Caitlin, but because she is one of the best players, she's the most revolutionary player, and I know it is a big thing to say this because of the gravity of what Steph Curry is, but she is the female Steph Curry. She plays the game in a very similar fashion. Ladies, nobody was pulling up from logos, especially girls weren't, until Steph was doing that. So this is something that Steph could probably take a little bit of credit in. The play style very similar to that. And now they have a woman that does this at such a high level. People are not going to always be receptive to being second fiddle now, because she's revolutionary. We're not going to have a LeBron James unless you come out with there's going to have to be an absolutely athletic freak. But the women's basketball game is not conditioned for that type of play style. Like it's just not. They're not as explosive. So this is probably going to be the most revolutionary player for quite some time in Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, and look, you brought up the potential expansions here. I don't think that's even close to being a conversation if it is not for her.
Yeah.
It's not happening because the WNBA has never seen any sort of growth like it is seeing right now. It is actually getting the spotlight. It is getting the attention it deserves because of the athletes that are out there.
Listen, those girls can ball. Those girls can ball outside of Caitlin Clark. It is not just the Caitlin show.
Absolutely. But if it wasn't for her,
right,
for better or worse, we wouldn't be having this conversation about potential expansion teams.
100%. That's 100%. Now, not everybody is excited about where these expansion teams are going. Caitlin Clark's teammate, Sophie Cunningham, who has become incredibly popular on the internet after sticking up for Caitlin and shaking her ass in front of every camera that pops up, does not think anybody's going to be excited to go to Cincinnati and Detroit. Well, I agree that nobody's excited to go to Cincinnati. Detroit's probably better than that. And nobody's going to Cincinnati because the city is Cleveland, Sophie. Cleveland.
Yeah, well, look, I know that you said that you're kind of excited or think that expansion is a good thing. I'm a little bit more on the trepidatious side here of like,
these are good cities for women's basketball.
Sure, and I don't necessarily agree with that or disagree with that. It's more of like we are looking at the first kind of sign of growth, and you could think we need to strike while the iron's hot, start expanding, get this out there more, or they could try to grow with what they have and continue this growth here and not get too far ahead of their skis. That's what worries me. Is that
they're adding 3 teams, I think, to get to 20.
Yeah, and so you just got to be careful with it from a business sense. And I don't know the full business sense of WNBA, but professional sports leagues in general
they're
usually
subsidized by the NBA. So
yes, and that helps a lot for sure.
Yeah.
But like it'll be cool to see how it helps grow the sport if we are continuing to see this kind of exponential growth. And while you only get like one LeBron, one MJ, one Kobe, you only get one Caitlin Clark, but there always will be another superstar. And so as the sport continues to grow in the limelight, you have to expect that there's going to be more superstars like Caitlin Clark coming down the pipeline who are going to be able to kind of continue to carry the torch that she's really lit for this sport.
Well, I think that her play style is conducive to somebody that can really that kind of thing can happen in the WNBA. Because while Caitlin is a good ball handler and fairly athletic, her game is all about understanding spacing, and she's just a fucking excellent shooter. When you can shoot, you can play in any league. Like there were old whites that were making a living in the NBA playing on LeBron's teams, just standing in the corner, waiting for him to pass him the ball to shoot a 3. So you can just, if you are just a shooter, you can make a living for a long, long time. So I would imagine there are going to be a lot of girls putting up a lot of shots over the next 4 to 20 years, considering what Caitlin does and how she tries to prep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, man. Let's get out of the WNBA. Let's go back to something that we kind of prefaced before we had our comment come in. Joey Chestnut is making his return. I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but I love the hot dog eating competition. And when Joey wasn't in it last year, I was not interested because there wasn't a dude that dethroned Joey. When Kobayashi was winning, I watched because it was really cool to see this guy who was constantly setting world records. And then you get Joey Chestnut, who goes out and does what he does and is the greatest competition eater of all time. But nobody ever dethroned him, so I couldn't give 2 shits about this competition last year. And the reason that Joey wasn't in it was a farce to begin with, because who gives a shit what kind of hot dogs you're eating? as long as he shows up and eats your hot dogs at your competition, in my opinion.
That's the thing is if you're not tracking Joey Chestnut, the greatest eater of wiener outside of Mia Khalifa or, name another name. He couldn't participate last year because he's sponsored by Impossible Foods. It's considered a rival brand. And I think what probably happened is that the Nathan's hot dog eating competition saw what limited viewership they do have plummet and caught a lot of backlash because as of this year, he is no longer banned from participating because they reached a quote common ground between Joey Chestnut and Nathan's. So Joey Chestnut is back, and I believe in lieu of doing that competition last year, he did his own hot dog eating competition or some sort of other eating competition
against a couple of soldiers, I believe, and still beat them.
Yeah. And so,
which, of course, I mean,
but it is good to see Joey Chestnut coming back. It'll be kind of, I think, kind of not fuck you to the hot dog eating competition, but it's he comes out on top on this one, whether he wins or not, but he's gonna fucking win.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's sidebar thing. Look, I had a little barbecue at my place last weekend.
Okay.
Some friends of Hannah's from work. And it really came to me. I hadn't had a hot dog in a long time, probably years, especially not one that I've cooked.
Really? Years?
Yeah. I don't know why. I just can't remember the last time that I had a hot dog. Corn dogs and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. Other phallic items, of course. But
obviously.
I hadn't had a hot dog in a while. And so I got told, hey, go out and get some hot dogs for the kids. So I went out and got some Nathan's hot dogs, put them on the smoker, not to smoke, but just to grill. And damn, if they weren't the best fucking hot dogs that I've ever had. I bought another pack this week and ate another pack of hot dogs off that fucking smoker because I don't know what it is. If it's just because I haven't had them in such a long time. Fucking, I haven't had such a wet seat.
Oh my God.
That I've had from eating that much wiener.
Okay, so first of all, I have to question what has been happening with your golf rounds because dog at the turn is almost a requirement. First of all,
I haven't been playing in quite a while.
Okay.
I haven't been playing golf because of the back issues and whatnot, and also my playing partners are generally gone. But two is if I'm playing, it's usually at the Mountain View golf course associated with the post, and you can't really easily get one. They don't have an easy turn. You'll get a dog. It takes too long, and I'm about ball playing game, so I just want to go, and I'll usually bring food with me rather than get the wiener.
Understood.
So that's been why I haven't had golf course wieners.
Just get the boys in baseball because you won't have enough time to make dinner on most nights. So you'll come home and you'll just eat hot dogs because trust me, that's what happens. What brand? Nathan's large fucking skinless dogs.
They're just, dude. And maybe it's because it's not hitting me different, or it is hitting me different because I grilled them rather than the boiled that you'll get in a lot of places to quick cook them. I don't know, man. It was almost revolutionary. I was so surprised. And I had to have Hannah take a taste and I'd be like, you put the wiener in your mouth. And you tell me this isn't fucking excellent. And she was like, she's like, I agree. These are way better than I remember. So I don't know.
So we're a Hebrew national people in the house. Very good hot dogs. Nathan's, I imagine, probably very good. Listen, I'll eat damn near any hot dog. And I don't necessarily care how it's cooked as long as it's cooked.
That's the thing. Is
I will not eat a
wiener
raw
at the end of the day. It is a wiener at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They're not raw. They're pre-cooked.
No. Those motherfuckers are raw. You cannot eat that meat and not feel sick. And it's not cooked in some fashion.
I don't do raw either. I have to cook it myself personally.
Yeah.
Even
I don't care if the microwave, fine. But I like these children that eat raw hot dogs. I don't know how that's not appropriate.
With capuch. little raw dog with
Well,
capuch.
capuch. Yeah. Capuch is how it's pronounced, or how it was pronounced for so long. And then some asshole at school taught my daughter how to say it correctly. Yeah, and now capuch is forever ruined.
That's terrible. But look, if a dog out there does want to sponsor Raw Dawg Sports, we would be glad to eat your wiener live.
Honestly, and I can actually run upstairs and have producer Amber grab me the Stadium Mustard shirt because I also only put mustard on a dog if I'm putting condiments, unless I'm doing a Chicago dog, which, by the way, shout out Gab Gowdy, Chicago dogs I fuck with. People are being really mean to her about hot dogs on the internet. It's crazy.
Yeah, look, I am a slut for Chicago dogs as well. I do
love Chicago dogs. So good, dude.
I almost consider it
it's the peppers. It's the sport peppers, man.
Yeah, that celery salt, perfect. But look, when it comes to regular traditional hot dog, the boy goes raw. I just bun and glizzy.
Oh my God, you're a fucking savage. I don't know why I even bother with that. I know that you don't eat food to enjoy it. You eat it for calories.
No. I'm just not a condiment person.
Oh, look, come on. You just take 2 pieces of bread and peanut butter and jelly.
Forgive me for liking the taste of meat going directly in my mouth, unabated and sliding down my throat. I like meat in my mouth. Mike.
Okay.
Raw. All right. I think that
I found that out. What? Anyways, moving on. I don't have anything else to say about Joey Chestnut. I expect him to win. I expect him to possibly contend for the world record, his own world record, just to come back and shit on Nathan's a little bit to say, you bitches could have had this for 2 years.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to a little bit of football news. We'll start with my team. The Cleveland Browns are going to get a new stadium. It is definitely happening at this point. They are moving off of the lakefront. They are going to Brook Park. They're going to be building, I think, Brownstown or whatever it is possibly going to be called. And I'm fucking stoked for it. I know you posted some things on Facebook. It looks a little bit like a barn. I don't give a shit necessarily what the outside of it looks like. I just hope that the atmosphere outside can resemble something like the atmosphere that was downtown. I want there to be a place where you can tailgate, where these motherfuckers can get a little rowdy and people can go and maybe have some shopping and stay away from that. I want there to be a large enough area, which it sounds like with the acreage that was bought, this is possible.
The renderings look to kind of show that as well, that it is not the stadium. It is a full complex surrounding the stadium.
And there are areas like this in other places. Like I remember being in Dallas. Now, Jerry World is a little bit of a hop, skip, and a jump away from the baseball stadium, but Texas Live is right there. Massive complex. That tons of bars, TVs everywhere, and it's a place to kind of hang out for tailgating or whatever, pre-gaming, whatever game that you're fucking going to. If we can get something like that in Brownstown or whatever they end up calling it, that would be incredible, because that atmosphere will be insane on game days.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to shit. It's just my shit on it. It's just like my first impression. I was like, it kind of just looks like
a barn.
A little bit like a barn, like a modern barn, I guess. But like, visual aesthetic, I think you have an opportunity with stadiums in order to build something that's unique and that you see it and you automatically know what it is. And it just doesn't jump out to me like some of the other more recent stadiums that are built, like out in LA, my US Bank Stadium, the stuff, that they're going to be doing, I believe, for that new not Oakland Athletics, but the new athletics baseball team stadium, stuff like that. Like you've got opportunities for that, and being in the climate that you're in with the snow and stuff like that, it starts to limit things to an extent because you have to worry about the snow.
You can cover it. You can absolutely cover it just like you would have in a hot location.
Yeah, for sure.
Shade.
But like US Bank Stadium, it is, looks like a futuristic Viking ship. Essentially. You have, the Raiders stadium that looks like some sort of a Death Star spaceship toilet thing. But there's opportunities. I feel like that could potentially be a little bit of a missed opportunity. But at the end of the day, it is the facility quality. It doesn't provide a good fan experience. That's really what matters. And now, I guess another question to you, which is probably one that's been mulled over quite a bit, but it is a covered stadium, which you haven't had there in Cleveland. When the Vikings were looking at building a new stadium to replace the Metrodome, I was very adamant about wanting a stadium that was open air, because I feel like that brings a completely different style of football. It makes you modify your team to be able to play in that sort of environment, and gives you an advantage later on in the year when you have teams possibly from the South or that aren't used to that sort of temperature come there and play. It can give you an advantage. And you're losing out on that potential opportunity now. How do you feel about them going to a covered roof? Are you worried about any sort of a change in advantage there, or a toughness maybe that comes with the team?
What fucking advantage? We have not been good for quite some time. There wasn't a goddamn advantage playing in the weather. Maybe this will give us an advantage that we'll be faster on the turf. We'll be used to turf. I don't fucking know. But I can tell you that playing in the elements of Cleveland didn't give anybody an advantage. I have worked some of those games, and it is awful. It is miserable for everybody. Fans, workers, players, everybody. So there is not really an advantage outside of possibly crowd noise. But the crowd noise inside that stadium with a fully packed, raucous Cleveland Browns crowd is going to be an advantage. That is going to be so loud. There's a reason that Browns fans are revered among NFL circles of fans as being some of the most rabid, intense, amazing fans. Like you talk about Bills Mafia. You got your Cowboys fans, which are they're just abundant, I feel like.
Pride Month is over. We don't need to talk about it.
Okay. But there are certain fan bases that have kind of a reputation. Browns fans are incredibly loyal fans. And they're going to pack that stadium, whether they fucking still suck dick or they actually turn into something good. So the crowd noise as a potential increase to home field advantage, I could see that. But the elements didn't offer any advantage. And our record at home certainly fucking proves that.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's the thing. Like I said, I was big into lobbying for an open air stadium for my Vikings.
Give me a closed air stadium. I want to host events. I want Cleveland to be a big ass mecca for sports events. Also, because I'm currently going to college to work in sports media. And it would be nice to stay around this area because Graydon really doesn't want to leave.
Yeah. So, and look, I have moved off of that point for my Vikings. Obviously, I love US Bank Stadium. I think it's an incredible. Super excited to be going there September 14th for the Vikings home opener. And so like I get it. Like it can be a tough pill to swallow for like football purists who like the outdoor game. The biggest thing and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, you brought up turf. Are they actually going to be doing some sort of an artificial turf in there, or are they going to find a way to have natural grass? Because apparently it is prohibitive.
Okay, so natural grass to keep and grow here in this area during football season might be a little tough to do.
It apparently has to do like you can put in essentially grow lights within the stadium and keep the grass growing indoors. It doesn't always have to be like the
Arizona Stadium where they roll that shit outside.
Yeah. And that's something that, obviously players have.
Well, I can tell you that if they put grow lights in things that are capable of growing grass in the stadium, the vibe in this stadium is going to be incredible. That vitamin D is going to be hitting like crazy, bro.
They probably don't run them all the time.
You fucking keep them cranked up. You turn the crowd noise real loud just by putting extra vitamin D on people.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know. I'm not a horticulturalist or botanist or whatever the fuck it is. So
I just know that when I lay out vitamin D in this house, it gets loud. Ooh, boom, self-5.
All right. But we had some other kind of big NFL news that happened over the last week or so. talks of a potential trade in Pittsburgh, but there was an actual trade that went down with Pittsburgh and the Miami Dolphins. Horticulture, baby. I don't even know if I used that.
That is, you did use it correctly. Horticulture is the study of plants and how all that shit works.
All right.
Boom. Thank you, Ted Lasso. Thank you, Ted Lasso. Okay, but yes, there was a massive trade that happened between Pittsburgh and Miami. Miami was involved in a couple of trades. This trade involving Pittsburgh, though, kind of came out of nowhere, I'd say. I don't know that a lot of people thought that the pieces involved with this trade would be involved. When I heard Jalen Ramsey on the move to Pittsburgh, I'm thinking, Jesus, this defense just became unbelievably solid at all places. Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, Darius Slay. They're stacked all over the place. But then we find out that Minkah's on the move with this. Minkah going back to Miami, a place that he was drafted by. Now, obviously, a lot of things have changed. Mike McDaniels is running things down there. Probably a much more chill environment than it was before with your boy Flores. So, good move by both teams. I'm not sure how this fits. If Jalen's going to move to a different type of role in this defense, because having Slay and Porter, are you going to tell me that one of those, and Jalen Ramsey, one of those three is going to be lined up in the slot on every play? That doesn't make any goddamn sense at all.
Yeah, look, I think that this is an interesting trade that from the outside, if you're not really paying close attention to it, the Miami Dolphins got a lot worse and the Pittsburgh Steelers got the same or worse. So Minkah Fitzpatrick was originally a cornerback who kind of ended up moving to a safety role as soon as he got traded from the Dolphins to the Steelers. And in like his first game,
flourished as a safety,
did fantastic, but they kind of modified that role where he's not playing the traditional kind of safety role. He is more of that kind of rover split in between the cornerback type of role because he does have those unique abilities and plays safety. And allegedly, that is the same sort of thing that they're going to be expecting Jalen Ramsey to do. The thing that I have a problem with is that Jalen Ramsey is a true boundary type of corner, really good at that, and it might be kind of a miscast type of role for him. He's also going in there older than Minkah Fitzpatrick, easily putting the Steelers as probably the oldest roster in the NFL right now.
Yeah, Minkah is not even 30 yet. Minkah has a chance to sign another contract.
Yeah, he's 28. And if I'm Minkah, I'm probably upset that I'm moving down to Miami, other than the fact that, hey, you know, taxes and stuff like that are different. And it's a chill vibe. But like, for what it's worth, Minkah has not been the same player the past 2 years. So, and Jalen Ramsey has been statistically good, but he is not what he once was either. So it's almost like a lateral swap between those two, except for you have Jalen Ramsey, who has a pretty hefty contract with them that the Steelers are willing to take on.
I mean, that sounds like the most expensive fucking big nickel slot corner that you've ever seen in the league at Jalen Ramsey's contract.
Yeah, and you know, it sounds scary at first, but I think that it's more of like a lateral move with the potential for it to be kind of worse off. That being said, like I said, Minkah Fitzpatrick hasn't been as good the past 2 years. Deshaun Elliott has kind of surpassed him there. They also brought in Juan Thornhill this offseason from the Chiefs. So they
not from the Chiefs, from the fucking Browns. Lazy ass, not giving no effort. Juan Thornhill. Yeah, I'm glad that he's on the fucking Steelers.
Second round pick from the Chiefs back in the day. But either way, like they have some guys there, so they feel like they can make this move up and send Minkah Fitzpatrick. The Steelers also in return get a tight end that Arthur Smith is very familiar with there in Jonnu Smith, who also 30 years old and has had his best seasons with Arthur Smith. And so you kind of add more to a tight end room for Aaron Rodgers. So you have a good wide receiver
who notoriously is not like great at, like, his tight end are not the guys that he normally targets.
Yeah, but look, if he is as good of a quarterback as everyone likes to try to purport that he is, he'll figure it out. Johnny Smith has always been more of a second receiver than a true tight end. He's just a little bit bigger body. He's one of those more move tight end types of guys, just not as special as a move tight end as you normally traditionally
I don't know.
think of as a move tight end.
Aaron's gonna hate this fucking offense.
I don't know. He might.
He might
not.
Going to hate it, dude. This is everything that two tight ends fucking running the ball. No, dude, this is not going to work for Aaron.
Yeah, but look, it caused, like, I don't think that it really moved the needle for the Steelers. It changed things a little bit, but I don't think it moved the needle. I don't really think that it made them better. On the flip side, you've got the Miami Dolphins, who just got worse. They had nothing in the tight end room, which caused them to make a trade to go out there and get Darren Waller. I don't. Did they even have to trade for him? Because I don't know if he was still under contract from the Giants.
No, they did. They did have to make a trade with the Giants. They still retained his contract. I don't know what the compensation was, but I know that Waller was moved via trade.
Yeah, and either way, look, Waller had a really precipitous fall off from being one of the better move tight ends in the NFL with the Raiders to not doing much with the Giants, and a part of that could be the Giants. For sure. You know, there's recent stories that have just come out about him knowing that he was going to quit and retire when they used him as a fullback in a game.
Yeah, that was a hilarious. Did you watch that?
Yes. Yeah. And so
it's so good.
You know, it's an unknown with Waller going there. Look, Mike McDaniels loves his offensive weapons. And if you get Waller what he was 3-4 years ago, it's a good grab for them and probably an upgrade for a dynamic passing offense. But even then, it's kind of like a lateral move for the Dolphins. But I think that there's a much higher probability that they get worse there because Minkah Fitzpatrick is, again, about the only guy in that defensive backfield. You have Storm Duck is like the other cornerback out there, I believe.
Honestly, fucking all pro name.
Yeah, fantastic name. But like their secondary is just really, really not good. Your highlight is Minkah Fitzpatrick, and you have to hope that he returns to form from 3 years ago. And you're getting Darren Waller, who might still be able to play at a starter level. We're not sure. It's an interesting move. A lot of money moved around. The Steelers are trying to go all in for this year, and I just don't know that the move necessarily moved the needle for me, at least.
Man, they're going all in, and I love what they're doing because the pieces are not going to line up. I think it's going to be great. I'm super, super excited for the Steelers and their season.
Yeah, and
we're not going to talk about the North today, though. We don't have to talk about those guys.
No, but we still have to talk about the Steelers because TJ Watt is in a contract dispute, if you will. He wants more money. He allegedly wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. You can make an argument why. He's been, one of the best defensive players for the past several years in the NFL. He is getting up there a little bit in age. There have been talks about him being a possible trade chip. But with all of the all-in moves that the Steelers have been making this year, do you think that they can afford to trade this guy? Because it's obviously going to be for some sort of future compensation. They're probably going to be looking for multiple ones, I would think. Do you think that they can afford to move him? Do you think that they would even have the balls to move him when they are making these moves to be all in?
No, they're going to pay him a declining TJ Watt, probably a fuckload of money. Now, reportedly, he wants more money than Myles Garrett, which that's going to be really hard to do considering how much fucking money Myles Garrett was just guaranteed, considering production, age, all of that. Same production, two less years old. Like, TJ is going to ask for the world, and he will probably get it, because if they don't give it to him, they're going to, I don't know what the Steelers are going to trade away. Their all-time sack leader, there could be all-time sack leader, and probably for fucking peanuts compared to, at least in production for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and look, you say declining TJ Watt. there's not that much decline. Like he isn't like he's getting older, but I still think that he is
the injuries are happening more
Yeah.
frequently.
But he's still probably, when he's on the field, a top 5 defensive end.
Oh, no, listen, when he's playing, he's great. He's just not healthy.
I just don't want you to get torn up too bad on the internet for saying that he's
listen, he is
declining TJ Watt.
His stats did decline, but his stats decline because he's not healthy. He just cannot stay healthy. Injuries have crept up on him. And listen, if it was just TJ and he was getting a couple injuries, okay. I don't want to be a dick, but I'm going to be. It's not like injuries weren't a problem genetically for that family. One of the things that cut JJ Watt's career short was his injuries and the amount of injuries that he received. That's not just random. Okay? Like, genetics plays a role in this. So I think it's entirely possible that we could be seeing a very big decline in TJ Watt's performance because of his injuries. And I think that the Steelers are very worried about that as well, which is why they don't want to pay him.
Yeah, it is kind of a rock and a hard place. The best thing that you can do is kind of pay him that money that he wants, but try to keep the terms short, and package some of that into void years. You know, you going much further beyond guarantees in 3 years is going to be difficult because he is getting up there in age. You bring up the injuries. There is going to be a time when he declines where it's not worth that contract. You probably still have another year where, yeah, you can pay him close to that Myles Garrett money and not feel great about it.
3 or 4 years, man. He wants long-term money.
Yeah, at least guarantees.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. It's another issue up there in Pittsburgh. I don't know. Have we heard old Aaron Rodgers weigh in on it yet?
No, I don't fucking care about Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the implosion. At a certain point, his name will come up in the news. It will be such big news that nobody will be able to avoid it.
I'm just, if anything, I'm surprised that we haven't heard from Aaron Rodgers yet because he doesn't like anyone being talked about more than him. So we can only take another couple days of this TJ Watt talk before Aaron Rodgers has to come out about something.
Or he'll pay one of his ex-girlfriends to come out and say something bad about him.
Yeah, something along those lines. Maybe his potential wife.
Dude, I don't.
Did you like? I'm sure it was in jest, but did you see David Bakhtiari in his Twitter comment?
No, I did not.
No, he went to someone's wedding recently, and he was like, "It's nice to have one of my teammates invite me to their wedding." Just a shot towards Rodgers. I'm sure it wasn't just because I think that they're good buddies, but
they are. They're very good friends, but
yeah.
Also, all right.
Apparently Rodgers' family doesn't believe that he's actually married.
All right, let's not turn this into the Aaron Rodgers hate hour.
Oh well, I mean,
we only got 17 minutes left in this hour anyway, so
just reporting facts.
Just reporting facts, baby. Speaking of, we've been in here for just about an hour. We got quite a few people. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. We haven't tossed this bad boy. Is it even in here anymore?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is. So thank you, guys. If you are watching us on Facebook, YouTube, appreciate you. If you're on YouTube, if you're not subscribed, please do that now. And if you're on somewhere else, at some point, we would love if you would like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube page. It would mean a great deal to us. With that, we're going to move on to the fun portion of the show. We'll see if we get into any more arguments. We're going to discuss upcoming records for the AFC and NFC West. A couple divisions that could be very competitive, not competitive at all, depending on how you're feeling. Some of these teams progressed in the offseason. So, Evo, my man, do we want to start AFC or NFC?
It's a coin flip for me, but let's just go with the NFC West. We'll start
NFC, give
there.
me NFC West, your number 4 team. Hit me with it, brother.
Number 4 team. It's actually a tie and a record here, but the team that only had one divisional win and worst record in the NFC West is the Arizona Cardinals at 6-11.
Ooh, 6-11 Arizona Cardinals, 1 win in the division. Not expecting a jump out of anything there. Marvin Harrison kind of getting on the same page as Kyler. No, not having it.
Yeah, look, I've not ever had faith in Jonathan Gannon. What he's been able to do as far as making the team exceed my expectations for them, I applaud him for that in recent years, but I still don't like. And to be completely honest, like I liked their draft this year and what they got out of it. But I just still don't find a team that scares me at all. I find them to be mediocre at best. Kyler is still a question mark. Is he truly the answer there? I think it's probably getting closer to a time where it's like that he might not be. Like I think Kyler's a good player, but it might be a time to mutually part ways and kind of restart things there. How long can their running game sustain with James Conner as the running back? He's been phenomenal there, but also a guy who encounters a lot of injuries. We know how running backs age quicker than other positions. And then Marvin Harrison, hopefully we start to see that big jump, but it's going to take a schematic change on offense to actually use him in the correct ways to see that jump happen, I think. They do have good players there, Trey McBride and whatnot. I'm just not super enthused by this team. I think they got a tough schedule. I got them at 6-11 with only 1 win in the division, putting them in that 4th place spot.
All right. So I have a different team in 4th place. Also at 6-11, though. 6-11 for me. I have the Seahawks coming in. Only 1 win in that division, 1-5. Listen, I'm not a big believer in your boy Sam Darnold. I think that what happened last year was a great storyline, and I think that excellent coaching and a really good team around him got a lot of things done. I do not have that similar faith in this Seahawks team. I think they lost a lot of talent. There's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of turnover, especially on the offensive line, running backs. I think Sam, I'm happy he got his money. He's going to have a really hard time with the weapons that are gone. Tyler Lockett, no DJ Metcalf. Now he's just stuck on JSN. So, he just doesn't have the people that he needs around him to support that growth that he saw with the Vikings. So I'm down on the Seahawks this year, man.
Yeah, look, I also have them at 6-11. They're my 3rd place team, except for they have 2 divisional wins. I'm kind of the same ilk. They bring in Clint Kubiak there to try to clean up some of their offensive stuff, but from seeing Sam Darnold firsthand, obviously he has a lot of arm talent. He has the ability to move a little bit, but a big part of his success last year is exactly what you brought up. Phenomenal coaching and quarterback rehab school. Kevin O'Connell is able to get the absolute most potential out of these guys, given their flaws. You also were surrounded by one of the best offenses for him to be able to flourish. When it came down to pressure situations, certain things breaking down, specifically that interior offensive line, Darnold kind of fell back to what he was. But he, to me, and this is more of a feeling than an anecdotal thing than really being able to quantify it, he seems fragile when it comes to his mental makeup. And maybe I'm completely wrong.
Baby, he sees ghosts.
But he was so ruined from his time with the Jets that, he needed to have someone who was really like that caring, loving dad, pick him up all the time. And you get that in Kevin O'Connell because he understands the mind of a quarterback, and he's able to see this is one of the things that was able to derail Sam previously in his career, in addition to just being on terrible teams. But it's like, hey, you have a bad play and it's okay. We're going to be all right. We're going to pick it up. We're going to, a very positive mentor in Kevin O'Connell for Sam Darnold. I don't know that Clint Kubiak is going to be able to replicate that enough. And then you talk about some of that offensive weaponry being lost, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf not being there. They do bring in Cooper Kupp in order to help with JSN. but Cooper Kupp hasn't had great years. A lot of
those are
injury
very
issues.
similar guys. Like JSN's a slot, and so is Kupp. JSN can win on the outside, but he works better out of the slot.
You're going to be having to deal with more weather issues and stuff like that potentially up in Seattle. And so, like, I do see a degradation in his performance. I do think that I don't want to call it a one-hit wonder, because if we saw Sam Darnold again with the Vikings, I think that he would have probably another solid year.
Sure.
Not as good as last year. I think that was definitely
like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, but you're talking about a guy who, up until this point in his career, has not been great. Does break down mentally, and I think that at the first kind of sign of there being issues up there, he could falter. And then you have a guy in Jalen Milroe, who obviously you and I both have had our issues with him as a draft prospect. Seattle has been pushing him a lot. I think that Jalen Milroe might be nipping at Sam Darnold's heels a lot more than people might expect. Definitely a different style of quarterback play.
100%.
But
completely different types of quarterbacks.
But you talk about a guy who's coming from a system in Alabama who thinks that he should be a starter. Like, he's probably got the mentality to be like, okay, I'm coming for your job.
Well, yeah, I mean, as he should. It's Sam Darnold. You should be going in there and compete.
And you had JJ McCarthy last year as a rookie who probably has the same mentality. I'm going to work my ass off to try to be the starter. But Sam had a different type of pressure because the intention was never to start JJ McCarthy. Like, apparently that competition got very close by the end of training camp before McCarthy got hurt. But the intention still wasn't to start McCarthy. Whereas they might be willing to move off of Darnold and throw in Milroe if things start to derail. And that will completely wreck him mentally, I think. I don't know if he's going to have that fortitude to continue going forward. Either way, I have the Seahawks also at 6-11, my third place team, because they got 2 divisional wins. Who do you got in third place?
Third place, I have the Cardinals. I have them better than you do. I have them at 9-8. I do think that there will be a little bit of progression in what their offense can do. I think they also did a pretty decent job in trying to kind of replenish that defense. So I expect it to be a little bit of an increase. I thought Kyler coming back off the injury showed some promise. This is a team that not too long ago was competing for a playoff spot. I don't know that they're super far away, but I don't have them making the playoffs in my bracket. I think they're right around that 500 team, 9-8. You're not going to be excited, but you're not going to be terrible. It's kind of where they've been when Kyler's been healthy, right there in the middling section of the NFC. And that's kind of where I expect them to be again.
Yeah. And look, we all have to keep our eyes on this, but there's a potential Black Ops game coming out. How is that going to affect Kyler in his play?
Correct.
No. I already talked about the Seahawks. I don't feel like they have a good defensive identity, even though I think they have a lot of interesting, talented players there, young guys. And if they're able to develop well, that'll be awesome. But I also feel like they're like 1 or 2 injuries away on this team from it really derailing their season. And I bet on the latter there happening more than them just staying healthy. Look, if Kyler goes down, I think the season is lost. I think the record's even worse.
100%.
So, yeah, like, I don't have a ton of confidence in them, but I look forward to them proving me wrong, because I do like a lot of their offseason moves that they make. I do like the drafts that they had. I think that they have a lot of really interesting young players on that defense. It's, can they develop them, and who's going to kind of set the defensive identity there?
No, I have 100%. I feel that. I hear that. I just feel like there's going to be almost a regression back to their mean, and this is their mean. Like, last year was down, Kyler was hurt, so there's a lot of things that were working against them. Cannon is a better coach than we gave him credit for early. I just don't think he'll ever get anybody over the hump. Yeah. Now, before we move on to 2 and 3, as we were going through this, you were bringing up quarterbacks, and I thought of this crazy scenario. I'm sorry we're going completely off topic. Producer Amber's already yelled at me once about that Joey Chestnut clip. We were supposed to do that quick, and we did not.
Legend.
But if you could guarantee yourself a Super Bowl, but you close your window for any competition, and you open up a window for your division opponent, would you do it? Because I think there's an interesting scenario because you guys have QB rehab school, right? You guys take QBs that are not necessarily great, but can be great with really good coaching coming from a Sean McVay system. If you swapped Michigan boy, JJ McCarthy, with Jared Goff down there in Michigan or down there in Detroit, Goff goes back to the system that he knew before, would probably be very good in that system, and your coach would be in control of that, knows the McVay thing. But and JJ McCarthy goes on, their window would open up. JJ McCarthy would be a fucking hero in Detroit, but you guys could compete. Would you do it? But you guys could win a Super Bowl because that's that missing piece for you guys. Because your team's very fucking good. We see what your coaching can do with a quarterback who is just adequately talented mentally, but supremely talented physically. Jared Goff, who has a little bit more of both, maybe gets you guys over the hump.
Well, see, this is like, I think that McCarthy is the guy that already does that for us. However, in this scenario, we trade McCarthy for Goff, and this year we get a Super Bowl. And then after that, there's no window.
Yeah, we'll call it that way.
I think
right now Evo trading this year of happiness for however long. Let's call it 10 years.
Dude, I've already gone a lifetime without a Super Bowl. What's another lifetime? That's the Vikings fan base. I hate to say it because I do love JJ McCarthy, but to kind of parrot what one of my favorite Vikings podcasts always says in Purple Daily, one before I die. That's all I ask. So if that's what it takes, and it doesn't mean bringing in an Aaron Rodgers or a Brett Favre or some bullshit like that, I'm open to it. As much as I love JJ McCarthy, and I would still be a fan for him out there with the Lions, but I would enjoy that one Lombardi. Because this team has been to the Super Bowl 4 times and never won the whole thing. Minnesota needs a Super Bowl. We need to get one. And I want one in my lifetime. If there's a guarantee in there of it, then yeah, I'm open to it.
All right. I feel let's get into the rest of the NFC West. Team number 3 for you, brother. Go ahead.
Team number 3 for me and making the playoffs is the San Francisco 49ers. I have them at 9-8. I can't remember who it was. Maybe Terrell Owens or someone said that they are still the best team in the NFL recently, which is wild. Look, the Ayuk stuff.
Yeah, there's a billion different things I could say to why they're not the best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
they're good.
They still have a lot of talent on there. I am scared about that receiving core. Not just Ayuk. I mean, Ricky Pearsall looks to be, a decent receiver and everything. No Debo there anymore. Christian McCaffrey, can he hold up to a full year? Like his career has shown
that Shanahan dude. Listen, for all the great things that Christian McCaffrey is, he's a fucking stud. But Mike Shanahan is the one that started this offense and made everybody a 1,200-yard rusher. Didn't matter who you put in the fucking backfield. And then I got updated by Clint Kubiak. And then it gets updated by now Shanahan. Like, this system has been around forever. It works. That's why everybody runs this system, because you can run the fucking ball. I'm not trying to take anything away from Christian McCaffrey, but if they don't have Christian McCaffrey, we've seen it already happen. Any motherfucker can go back there with a brain and run the zone system as long as he can spot a hole. That's why high schools run it all the time. That's why we teach it to young kids. The zone system is one of the easiest blocking systems for linemen and running backs to read.
Yeah, look, and that's fair. I just think that there's a completely different element when you have a healthy Christian McCaffrey in the field.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, he's special.
And I don't trust that can be a thing. Like, his lifetime history in the NFL has been rife with injuries. We've had a small run where he wasn't super injured with the 49ers, and they looked like they were the best team in the NFC, one of the best teams in football during that time. But now they are aging. They just paid out a lot of money to Brock Purdy. There's question marks about whether or not, he is worth that sort of money. And I think those are reasonable questions, despite the fact that I really like Brock Purdy. And I think that very
He
much
got
so,
a
like
lot
a
of
lot of
fucking
teams.
money. That's
Yeah,
a
for
lot of
sure.
money.
But like you surround him with a lot of talented guys and you run that simple of a system with a good head coach, and you're going to get good results. And that's what we saw, except for that timeline ran out because you had to pay Purdy. And you have a lot of guys who are old, aging veterans. People have left the team.
That
Getting
offensive
Robert Saleh
line
back
that
is
offensive line
big.
is going to be in trouble because they're getting old real fucking fast. And Joe, he, our big fan of the 49ers, loves them. I'm sure he's got to be terrified about the way this offensive line is going to go. I'm sure he's happy to have Trent back, but Trent has shown that he's starting to become a little older. He's starting to, now when he's on the field, he's pretty good. Can he stay healthy? Can that offensive line stay healthy in general? Can this team stay healthy?
Yeah. And that's, like I said, I have them at 9-8. I have them getting into the playoffs. I still think they're a good team. They're an old team. They're going to be more scrappy, but they're getting by a lot on that veteran talent that is there. That is still definitely above average. You're going to get boosts from just having good veterans on the team, but not great veterans anymore. And then also you do have a good coaching staff there. 9-8, they are fringe playoff team, but I have them getting in.
All right. So my second team, I also have the 49ers. I have them a little better than you. Actually, I have them at 11-6, but they are also my last team getting into the playoff. I think that this NFC is going to be a little top heavy this year. So 11-6 is the last playoff spot. We just talked about them. They have a shitload of talent. The coaching is fantastic. You can find ways to win with fucking anybody with the Shanahan system. As long as your quarterback pulls the trigger when he's supposed to the right guy. It's monkey see, monkey do. That's why a lot of people don't like running it, because it takes away the creativity of the quarterback. Brock Purdy is perfectly content running this because he's got paid a fuckload of money doing it. So I think they're going to be a pretty good, solid team if they stay healthy. I anticipate their health being a little bit better than it has been the last year and a half, because it feels like they've been decimated.
Yeah, look, health has been a big issue for them for the past couple of years. Honestly, it's derailed some of those playoff runs and whatnot. It's been an issue. I question the health. I don't know that they're going to be healthier, because you still have, like, a Brandon Ayuk, who has obviously got some issues with the team, who has recently come out and talked about his health issues and how he was treated by the team and everything with those health issues. And you have a lot of aging stars. Christian McCaffrey, oft injured. Trent Williams, oft injured. So I'm not completely sold.
Okay. I get that. We still have them both in the same playoff spot, 7th in the playoffs. I got them a couple games higher.
I got them at 6th.
Oh, you have them at 6th?
They're the 6th seed in my playoffs.
Oh, I got them as my 7th seed. I have a top-heavy NFC this year. My AFC actually is very not that way. Very bottom-heavy this year.
And that leaves first place for us both with the LA Rams at this point.
Yeah, I got them at 11-6, 5-1 in the division.
All right. And I have them at 12-5 at first in the division. Look, this is McVay. We didn't expect them to be as good as they were last year, and they definitely turned it on towards the end of the year. That defense had a bunch of no-name guys on it, and they made those no-name guys fill in spots and do really well, supplemented by good drafting of young players. You're not replacing Aaron Donald like that, but they're getting good production out of those guys. They are very flexible with their scheme. They're seeing good stuff out of the offense. They're continuing to make Matt Stafford look fantastic. Yeah, you lose a guy in Cooper Kupp, but you weren't getting much out of him last year anyways, because he was injured and he's aging and kind of on that decline. I like their draft this year was unspectacular, but I do like the guys that they brought in. They brought another edge guy in the third round, Josiah Stewart, who's a solid contributor. Terrence Ferguson, who has a lot of upside as a second round pick at tight end, which is a spot that they desperately needed to kind of add to. Another big body receiver out there for Matt Stafford. Jarquez Hunter in the fourth round is a running back that I'm a big fan of, who I think is going to fit into that rotation really well. Ty Hamilton out of Ohio State, a defensive tackle, good pickup. Chris Paul, in round 5 as well, and another receiver in Kanata Mumfield, which they seem to be able to kind of have a weird array of wide receivers and good production out of them because that McVay system is so good at scheming things up. I think the coaching plus that veteran leadership from Stafford and then this defense, which is young and kind of coming out of nowhere, I think it's going to be a really solid team again. So I got them going 12-5. And look, I got to see firsthand what that team can do twice last year. The Vikings lost to 2 teams last year, the Lions and the Rams, and they lost 4 times because of it. I know that those teams are good. And so I have some faith in the Rams still being good again this year.
Yeah, so I feel the same way. I had them 11-6. I had them 5-1 in the division, but Matthew Stafford is still the best quarterback in this division when he's healthy. Probably the best coach in this division, McVay. They're very close with Shanahan. I love Shanahan, so that's very close to being a toss-up. Offensive minds, a little bit of different philosophy, but the Rams have done an excellent job of replenishing that defense. They have found guys. They have hit on guys who make up what Aaron Donald was in the aggregate. It's not one dominant dude. They have found really nice pieces all throughout this defense, and I really trust Sean McVay to find a way to score points. He finds a way to do it with quarterbacks that you've never heard of. Baker Mayfield won a game with 2 days' notice because of Sean McVay. So if Sean McVay is calling the plays and you got a healthy Matt Stafford, that's the best quarterback coach combo in that division. Hands down, I'd say Stafford's proven on a higher scale than Brock has that he can do it. So that's where I'm leaning hard.
Yeah. And look, as a side note with this Rams team, look, Stafford probably has a year left in him, and it's probably this year. And they absolutely can make a deep playoff run with him. But beyond that, they are poised to make a really big selection in the first round next year and go after a quarterback. They traded back with Atlanta this year. They picked up an extra first next year. I don't have super high hopes for Atlanta this year. We haven't talked about the NFC South yet. We'll get there. But I don't have super high hopes for them
either.
And so, they could be in position with 2 first-round picks to make some aggressive moves in what is expected to be a good quarterback class. And you have a coach in McVay who is good with quarterbacks, good with offense, good at developing. So they absolutely could be in position to make a quick trade-off from Stafford to a young kid and not see a huge drop-off. So they are in a window, a deep playoff run window, and they might not take too much of a step back if Stafford does retire after the year.
Absolutely, brother. All right, let's head over to the AFC West. Team number 4 on the bottom for me. I'll go ahead and lead us off, and I think we're led in the same direction. I got the Raiders. I think that they will be improved from last year, but I don't have a huge improvement. I still have them at 4-13. I think they get smacked in this division. This division is going to be a gauntlet. In my opinion, this is the best division in football this year. With the upgrades that were made on the Chargers and the Broncos. So the Raiders are going to have a really tough time. That's why I'm so down on their record, because I think this division is a fucking gauntlet.
Yeah. I got it being really competitive as well. But I actually have the Chargers in last place in this division with a winning record. Chargers 9-8, 2 divisional wins. I have them in 4th place.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So we are, we're very different on that. Listen, I'm interested to hear where you have the Raiders. For me, man, I just don't think that there's enough there in place for all the offensive changes and Pete Carroll going there. I think the running game will be cool. I'm not sold on their quarterback spot. I'm not there, man. I still feel like they're going to have a really hard time. I had them 0-6 in their division. And that is one of the reasons why they're so down. Like, you win 4 games as the Raiders outside of your division, you're pretty happy. You're like, okay, cool. We go what 7-10 this year. That's a huge improvement. I just think that all of these other teams in this division are so much better.
Yeah, look, I do think that this is an extremely competitive division. I got, like I said, I got the Chargers at 9-8 with 2 wins in the division, rounding out the back end. And it's not because I don't think that they're a good team. I obviously I have them with a winning record here. I think that on defense they got worse this year. You lose Bosa, yes, injured a lot, but I like in bringing in Khalil Mack is still a solid player, but they didn't do much to upgrade that defense. Asante Samuel's also injured quite a bit, but not there anymore as of right now. And you bring in Denzel Perryman, kind of a journeyman linebacker, but I feel like that defense is going to probably be the biggest weakness of this team. And then on offense, you bring in Mekhi Becton, who we saw one good year of play last year with Philadelphia on a really good offensive line. Now, this is going to be a run-first type of team.
This is also Harbaugh a pretty good offensive line.
Absolutely. And I do think that the offense probably gets better, but it is going to be definitely run first. I do like the additions and everything that were made there. Bringing in their new running back out of North Carolina. I love that pickup for him in Amari Hampton, but I'm not completely sold on the other moves. I do think that you need a little bit more balance. I like Justin Herbert a lot, but I still don't think that he has enough offensive weapons. You also run into Tyler Conklin at tight end, but the Vikings drafted him, played him a lot. I liked him, but I liked him as a second tight end. He kind of got that lead job in New York and didn't do a whole lot with it. And now he's probably the lead tight end there in LA. And I don't think that it's going to be much of a needle mover there as well. I think that if you want to make full use of Justin Herbert and his talents, which we haven't really gotten to see that yet, you need to bring in better receiving talent. Trey Harris doesn't do it for me in the draft either. Like, he's a little bit of a one-hit type of deep guy to me. So I think that while this team is going to be good offensively running the game, they're going to be sound offensively. I don't think they're going to have the passing attack to keep up with some of those higher scoring offenses like you can see from the Chiefs or other AFC teams. And then the defense, to me, just doesn't feel like it's going to be great this year. I think it's going to be bottom half of the league. So I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up in games.
Okay. All right. So we disagree on the Chargers is what I'm getting. The sense I'm getting for now. Let's go ahead and move on to team 3. For me, team 3, 6th team in the playoffs at a good fucking record. 12-5. I got the Broncos 12-5, 3-3 in their division, 6th team in the playoffs. I think that this team is so good defensively that they're going to see probably a little bit of a regression from Bo Nix, but they're going to keep enough points off the board that they won't have to go crazy. Like, this offense will find a way to get enough, because this defense is going to be so fucking good for Denver. Like, it is going to be the most stacked secondary possibly that we have seen in the NFL in quite some fucking time, dude. They could put up insane, like, record-breaking pass yards allowed numbers, I think. They'll get pressure too. So I like this Denver team 12-5. The only reason that they're the 6th team is because I have the Chargers also 12-5, but a better divisional record.
All right. For me, my 3rd team is that Raiders team. I also had them 9-8. Same as the Chargers.
Okay.
But they had 3 wins in the division, so they technically place higher. I do not have the Raiders making the playoffs, but again, 9-8. Again, every team in this division gets a winning record. I think that bringing Pete Carroll in, despite the fact that he is old as fuck, is going to be a better coaching job, better coaching staff than they had previously with Antonio Pierce. Don't want to knock on him too much, but I think that obviously that role wasn't correct for him yet. And and that, there was probably a little bit of the players leading the team rather than the coach leading the team, which can cause some situations. Yes, they bring in Ashton Genty. I think that is like perfect, ideal for Pete Carroll. Geno Smith, very, very good statistically in the regular season. He's kind of like the Dak Prescott, equivalent there. But he's not going to necessarily be great in the playoffs. But that's going to boost that team. You're going to see a big boost from their tight end and Brock Bowers this year, possibly Michael Mayer as well, if they're going to be running.
Yeah, they can't move him. They have nobody's even inquired about him as far as I've seen.
Well, so there was talks about him possibly being a target for the Dolphins after they traded away Johnny Smith. And the Raiders quickly came out and said no, that they weren't interested. I think that they brought in some decent depth or veteran players and free agency as well with the Raiders. That's going to make them better. And a pretty decent draft. Ashton Genty, again, I think that he is a big needle mover for that team, fits perfectly for the scheme that Carroll's going to try to run. He gets a quarterback that knows how to run his offense and play for him. Jack Besh, I'm not a super high on, but I think that he's at least in a good number 2 style receiver for them out there. Darian Porter at cornerback, I think, the world of him. I think that he could be a fantastic cornerback, and that's the biggest weakness on this team is the defensive backfield. I think that this team improves. I think that they are a winning team, but I don't see them any better than that kind of 9-8 record. We'll see how long Pete Carroll really lasts there, because the guy could die any day theoretically, even though he looks great for being like
he does. If we keep fucking putting that out there in the universe, Evo.
Look, I'm just saying, life's a bitch, and the guy is like 102 years old. So I hope that he has a long run there, and I think that they're going to be moving in a positive direction. Good leadership on the team, some really good acquisitions, especially in Genty. Genty's a big, again, needle mover for me with them, but I got them going 9-8 with 3 wins in the division.
All right, 9-8 with 3 wins in the division. Interesting. All
right. My second place team here, Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh wow! A lot of the Schenefeld family, the Amber side of the family, is gonna be very happy the way this shakes out.
Yeah. Them. So and my wife also,
I'm sure, is also very happy. Yeah. Oh yeah, your now wife.
Yeah, my wife.
Happy lady.
Which, by the way, I love her to death. But whenever I say that, she doesn't get the reference. She's never seen Borat.
Really?
My wife. Yeah. She doesn't get it. But either way, I got the Chiefs going 10-7 this year. So 1 win better than the Raiders, 1 win better than the Chargers. I got them at 10-7, making the playoffs. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes led team, really good all the time. Andy Reid always does a good job. This is less about them taking a step back and more about this division is just very fucking good. And they're still a playoff team. I'm not sure I feel great about the running back situation there. I love, I'm not going to be Royal, the receiver that they got, I think is
Jalen Royal.
He's going to surprise the fuck out of everyone. I think that he comes out this year as the number 1 receiver on that team. He's not like a Tyreek Hill or anything like that. I think that he's going to be a perfect type of receiver for Patrick Mahomes. So fancy implications out there for everybody. Jalen Royal is I expect big things from him this year.
Receiver group's a lot better than it was last year. A lot better.
But
because they're healthy.
And they got some
one's in jail
back up there. Yet. So I got the Chiefs going 10-7. And it's mostly because they're still a really good team, one of the best quarterbacks in the game, but they are playing a unrelenting schedule in a very tough division.
Okay. All right. So you are very middling on these teams. I have this NFC West just fucking being dominant. My second team, I have the Chargers at 12-5, 4-2 in the division. I actually really like what this team did. I think they made upgrades at offensive line because it was already a pretty good offensive line. Mekhi Becton, you are not a big fan, but we have seen him slide in and be a really nice piece in an offense.
Not that I'm not a fan. I've seen him play one good year on a very talented offensive line, which can hide.
Well, this is also a very talented offensive line, thanks to this Harbaugh team, and
well
they also
coached.
go out and they go out and they add some running backs that one I really liked in Omarion Hampton, and a veteran guy in Najee Harris, who, despite our moments of disdain for Najee and his inability to see a hole, has been productive and can be a pro's pro in that offense and take and show Omarion Hampton how all of this is done. Their offense could be really, really nice with those two guys, because both of those dudes have proven they can carry the rock a lot. Now, obviously, Omarion at a lower level in college, but with almost 400 touches last year he had between rushes and carries, or rushes and receptions. So completely capable of carrying an offense, and those two guys working together, I think, has a chance to be really nice. You would like to see another offensive, like a big time receiver weapon for Herbert, but they're still waiting for Quentin Johnson to kind of maybe take that role.
I'm not taking that.
It's not happening, but they're gonna give him at least this one more year to try to take that role.
Yeah, look, that's the thing is, I think they're going to be a really good team. I think they're going to control the game via their ground game. I just don't think that I think the defense got worse, and I don't know that if teams start scoring on them that they're going to have the firepower to keep up with that when you need that in a passing league.
Yeah, I understand that. I can completely understand the fact that if they need to put up points quickly, they will really struggle with that. There's going to be slow, methodical winning of games, grinded out type games. But I think that with this running game, they're really going to be able to do that again. They fucking did it last year with guys that have not proven nearly as much as the guy as Najee Harris has. And we are big fans of Omarion Hampton, so I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I think that kid's got a chance to be really special.
Yeah, for sure. So my first place team, of course, is the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
I have them going 11-6 in the West. Again, we're seeing one game differences between the top three teams and theoretically the fourth team as well, with the Raiders and Chargers having the same record. Bo Nix, he's I think the biggest question mark on this team, and he proved last year by the end of the year that he is a pretty solid quarterback playing within the system, playing within that Sean Payton system. They're a better team at running back. They're a better team on offense in general, and like you already brought up, and I don't think I need to hammer home too much, their defense was outstanding last year and only got better. So that defense alone is going to keep the score low. And then you just have to see Bo Nix run the system. And that's about it. Like, that's why they're going to be such a good team this year, is because they're going to be able to keep the score low and they're going to be able to run that Sean Payton system. Bo Nix, I don't think, needs to do better than he did last year. And I don't know that he will do better than he did last year. You a lot of times see the second year slump from those rookie quarterbacks. I don't know that we saw peak Bo Nix last year, but I also don't think that we're going to see a whole bunch of difference. Like, he's competent in running that offense. They've got some better weapons and some better targets out there. This Broncos team, for me, edging out here, getting that 11-6 record.
All right. My number one team at this point, if you haven't figured it out, Kansas City Chiefs. I actually have them third place at 14-3. I have a very top-heavy AFC, much kind of like how I had the NFC last year. But listen, I think the Chiefs are due for a little bit of an uptick. Pat Mahomes is still very good at football.
They're due for an uptick, and they were in the Super Bowl last year.
Listen, they did not have the greatest season offensively. And I think Pat Mahomes understands that. And I think they got better offensively. The defense is still going to be very good. Spags still there. Spags is still going to be fucking leading a no worse than top 10 defense in my estimation. And I would expect with the offensive upgrades the Jalen Royal that you brought up. I mean, they're healthy. No one's in jail. Like, they are going to be really good on offense. We won't have to see Travis Kelce be 1,200-yard Travis Kelce. He can be 700-yard Travis Kelce like he was this last year or whatever it was, 800 yards. But this offense will still be explosive because there will be other fucking guys around them. The problem last year was there was nobody else. You had Isaiah Pacheco, but he was banged up a lot of the year. God, what's the receiver who crashed the car? I just forgot his name.
Rashee Rice.
Rashee Rice tore his ACL because Pat Mahomes doesn't know how to tackle. They are just going to be better on offense. So I have them at a very good 14-3. However, only gets them third in the AFC.
All right. Look, for me, again, kind of because I didn't go super deep into the Chiefs here. I think the biggest weakness for this Chiefs team is going to be their offensive line. They lose Joe Thuney. They don't have DJ Humphries there anymore, who he wasn't great. In the draft, I really do like. I love this Chiefs draft class, but the offensive line, we bring in Josh Simmons. Is he going to be able to play right away? If he can, sky's the limit. But I think we're going to need to see a little bit more of that Patrick Mahomes magic, where he's able to move the pocket and get away from defenders, because that offensive line still scares me. That being said, the weapons that they have now out there do make me a little bit more excited for their offensive production. Again, I'm going to keep banging the table for Jalen Royals, but they go out in the last round of the draft and they get Brashard Smith, who I think absolutely.
Dude, I love that fucking kid as a running back, and they could use him at either spot, especially with the way Andy Reid draws shit up, because he played running back, he played fucking wide receiver. That kid is explosive as shit. That is, you want to talk about a Percy Harvin clone? That kid, put the ball in his hands. He'll go find a way to score you a touchdown.
And that's the thing, is they already have Isaiah Pacheco, another 7th round pick that they were able to get a lot of production out of. They're going to be able to do the same with Brashard Smith. He's a different style of running back, but I love him being an addition to that backfield. He's going to fill that kind of Jerick McKinnon role for him that they were missing. You get Omar Norman-Lott, fantastic defensive lineman. I was really high on him. Ashton Gelati at defensive end. Noel Williams, a cornerback who I really liked. He's going to help support that defense. And Jeffrey Bassa, who is a good rotational linebacker, interior linebacker. Like, I love their draft class. I think they got a lot of good value there. For me, the biggest thing with this Chiefs team is that offensive line. Is Patrick Mahomes going to still get all the calls that he normally gets from the refs to help him out there? Because I do think that they're going to see a lot of penetration.
That's what she said.
But they do make the playoffs for me. I actually have them as the 6th seed.
6th seed. All right. So I have 3 teams from the West, AFC West, making the playoffs. I have Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos all making it. Heavy division there.
Yep. Look, AFC West, one of the best divisions in football this year, I believe.
Yep. In my opinion, the best division in football, especially based on the records that I have here. So, but my man, I think that wraps it up. We got AFC, NFC West. We talked Jalen Ramsey, TJ Watt, the Browns, Joey Chestnut, the WNBA. We hit it all, baby.
Yeah, it might be wrapping it up, but we sure as fuck aren't wrapping it up because we are Raw Dawg Sports, coming at you with that raw authenticity, with our takes and all the bullshit we like to spew. Hopefully, you all like the diatribe about meat in my mouth, Joey Chestnut. But yeah, it was a fun show. It's good to get back at it.
Hell yeah, brother. Hey, thank you, my man, and to everybody who saw. Last night we were supposed to do a show. We were not able to do that. I needed a day. You know what? And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. July is BIPOC. I don't 100% know what that means, but people of color is a mental health awareness month. Mental health is super important. I am somebody who is dealing with mental health, and I want to be open and honest with my experiences. So I needed it today. So everybody who tuned in today, even though we told you we were coming here yesterday, thank you. we appreciate it very much. Mental health awareness is super important. I know it has been a big part of my life recently. So Evo, I appreciate you, my man, for being flexible. And to everybody here, thank you very much for tuning in. It means the world to us. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. So anytime that you give some of it to us, we are forever grateful. Evo, give the people one last word.
This is the last weekend I got here with my sons before I have to wait until Christmas to see them. So, Daria and Demetrio, thank you for an awesome summer. I love you boys. Yeah, I look forward to our next adventures.
Oh yeah, guys. This is Raw Dawg Sports. We will be back next week. We're gonna find some shit to talk about. We're not sure which division it's gonna be. Actually, we do at this point because we're doing the North last. We are gonna go. What's that? What have we done? South. We're gonna do the South next week. So with that, guys, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. I am Mike. That is Evo. We will be back next week. See ya.